games, my guy?
And goes the dynamite.
It's only a game. Why is your character be mad?
Hello, and welcome back to Games My Guy podcast, the esports podcast by fans for fans. My name is Patrick Aches Avery Kenny, and joined as always on this spooky podcast, we're filming very late, Ethan Doc Goose Butler. How's it going, man?
Been not too bad of a day, I ain't gonna lie. I won't lie. It's been pretty solid. I had chicken wings.
The big chicken wing day, Thursday or Tuesday. Oh my god. I act like
Gotta have those wings.
I act like I've never done chicken wings. Like, it's Tuesday.
Man.
It's always Tuesday.
You gotta do them on the Tuesday. You gotta get the coat with as many limes as they'll allow.
As many
And-
limes as that rim will hold.
I went bold today, sir. I did the 4 for you. I
Oh.
normally go with 3, but you know what? I
Mm.
know for my Patrick, I'm gonna give this a little. I'm giving a little extra.
You poured one out for a homie. Thank you so
I
much.
did.
man. That's awesome. So, have you been feeling good since seasons have been over? You've been excited for the finals coming up, playoff
I am.
action.
I think things are going to go. There's a lot of room for upsets that I don't think people are full. A lot of people are maybe not seeing, or maybe they are. But for my eyes, a lot of people are still predicting the very standard winners and things. Some teams could go very deep depending how the meta goes, but especially how we don't really know. Like, we hear hints out of Asia their meta is going to be fucking crazy. Like, Nero's tweeting is like, you guys aren't ready for the APAC meta. And like Sideshow was talking about it, and then Platchow was also just talking about, like, oh, God knows what NA is going to be. And so, like, I've heard main tanks are practicing Roadhog all over the place. And so I don't it's going to be weird, man. I'm not ready.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. Like, I've seen some Zarya Roadhog comps. Reinforced kept on saying in his power rankings that there might be an Ashe Tracer meta, which I don't know
Oh my
how I
God.
feel about that personally.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we've seen a lot of Ashe this season. We've seen how powerful Ashe can be. But Ashe Tracer is a meta to be very scared of, I think, especially with a Roadhog in the mix.
It's going to be brutal.
Yeah.
And I was talking about how, in terms of upsets, I think people are ranking. I'm just going to throw this out, a nice take out right away. We're going real hard. Quick. But I know I'm wearing a Boston jersey, but I'm not talking about Boston right now.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the LA Valiant. If
I was going
if
to
it's
bring
Ashe
this up.
Tracer,
Yeah.
like, there's very few Tracers in the league who can go toe to toe with Shax, in my eyes. Like, Striker is one of them. I can only think of, like, maybe Striker.
Dante could
Dante is
probably-
really good.
Yeah.
Fleta, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Fleta's actually surprisingly good. No, I'm not saying surprisingly. He's good at everything.
Surpri-
But, like, I'm just trying to think. Like, Valiant could make a deep run if it leads itself to, especially with a KSP on the Ashe. He's an absolute monster.
yeah.
Like, the Valiant could make a surprisingly deep run if the meta goes, Ashe Tracer especially. That'd be, for Valiant fans, that's you're praying. You are
Yeah.
praying it goes to that.
Yeah, it's true. And Valiant, I think, is a team that a lot of people are kind of sleeping on, to be honest. Like, they've kind of proved in the last couple of weeks that they're a team that can take games and take matches against teams that they really shouldn't be beating. And just going into the playoffs, that has to do everything for their momentum and everything for their pride of being a part of this team. So, I mean, I think that they're a really big dark horse going into the playoffs, and I'm actually really excited to see what they're able to do.
I just want to see them do really well just to piss off Sideshow as well. Because he's already mad that he has to shave the logo into his head. And he was talking about it on the podcast today I was watching. He was saying, like, the Valiant guys are, like, harassing him, saying, like, oh, when are you going to shave the logo? Ha, 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 ha. And I just want to see him mauled even further. Because all those guys picked, like, them, because they thought eventually it would come down to Mayhem Valiant at some point. And they're like, oh, Florida, flows to win. And even though they brought up the point that the Florida Mayhem have, like, maybe beaten the Valiant once this year, it's just like, come on, guys. Don't do this to yourselves. You're going to be mad. I'm hoping, I just want to see it so bad, just for, like he's got so little hair. But, like, he's gonna lose the rest of it if it comes to that.
That's what I was feeling. Like, hasn't this man been through enough? What is enough for you people? Like, he's gonna shave a fucking logo into his head? Are you kidding? Like, he barely has eyebrows, barely, and we shaved them off. Like, it's
He
just
did
never
this for
ending.
you.
He did this for all of us. He did this for Overwatch League.
He's sacrificed a lot. He's drank in maple. Like, remember, I think it was this. Was it this year or the year before? No, it was 2 years ago. I think the 2018 World Cup.
Oh yes,
And they had the beautiful desk, and then like Sideshow drank a full bottle of maple syrup, like not like Mr. Butterworth.
yeah.
I mean, I know I slurred my words there, but not that, not this normal stuff. Like, this is straight from the tree
Yeah.
syrup.
You know it's real when the bottle looks like a maple leaf.
You know, yeah, we don't fuck around in Canada with that type of shit. We would like to know. We'd like to have our food in the shapes of maple leaves.
Yes.
And we'll eat pretty much anything if you put it in that shape. I'm
please,
not joking.
please and thank you. Please and thank you.
And yeah, and we will say thank you.
But yeah, like it's that much maple syrup is so rich. I can't believe he did that. That was so funny.
Like, it wasn't even like he paused too. He's like, "Oh, go on then," and he's just like, "Whoop," and then
It's
it looked like he was
gone.
about to throw up, and then he finished it too because there's a little bit left, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a little bit more," and then like Bren was like, "You really are an animal." After he was just that man. He's given so much of himself to the league and to us.
It's true. And
We
why?
asked a lot.
Yeah, we do ask a lot, but he needs to give us more. And I'm just excited that he keeps doing it.
I want
yeah.
to see what else we can make him do.
Exactly. And I mean, with the playoff matchups coming up and the ones that like we know about right now, there could be some other shenanigans going on. I mean, the Boston-Houston game should be pretty interesting for sure, going on September 3rd, that first game of the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's gonna be, that's gonna be one. Like, we Boston fans have, it's been rough. We've talked about this before. It's not been an amazing season. There's been something that's happened again that happened in season 1 that, like, it happens once, it's already bad. Like, if it happens twice, it didn't look good the first time. Okay, it's not looking good now. And then we've had, I think we're on, is it 1, 2, this is our third off tank. Our second main support. Technically speaking, our second main. We have 3 main tanks. It's been a wild ride, man.
Yeah.
And so if they like take this game, like Houston. Oh, I don't even want to know what the Houston fans are going to do. Like, I'm scared for my life as a Boston fan. If Boston somehow wins this game, I'm going to be chased out of my home. Like, they're going to come from Texas. They're somehow going to get into Canada. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm scared.
I don't be scared. It's just because we're recording this podcast at night. You don't need to be afraid. It's okay. Just Houston Outlaws fans just come out from behind you, just
What's the smell? Barbecue.
No. No.
Remember me, Patrick. I'm just dragged away.
Oh,
A Houston
God.
fan sits down in my chair.
It'd be perfect. Just a Houston plant just comes in.
Just,
But yeah.
hello, Patrick. You? Who are you? I'm Ethan, the Houston fan.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, just
Carry
don't
on.
notice. Gosh. But yeah, no, it's unfortunate that Boston has kind of been a revolving door for a lot of talent. And, we've some really great players have come out of Boston. And I mean, the players that they have right now are good. And a lot of the players they've had for a long time, like Color Hex, have been around for a long time. And Fusion's been the backbone of that team forever. So, I mean, it's not like it's a team that hasn't been tested, like it's a team that has been playing not too well in the regular season, unfortunately, but it is also a team that has been put together way before this season, unlike a team that is also going to be playing on Thursday, the Vancouver Titans.
Yes, like we talked about Boston, Houston, which honestly, a safe bet is to pick Houston to take it like 3-1, maybe, because
Right.
Boston has been known to take a map here and there.
Yeah.
And it depends how hot Jerry's feeling, maybe. And again, with the meta could really hurt the uprising, or could help them a bit. They could use, if it's Zarya Hog. I know Punk's really good Zarya. I don't know how good Fusion's is, Hog is, but like I think certain metas can benefit Boston, maybe not more than Houston. Like, because the things that something I've heard being talked about and people know is that hydration is very flexible. And like this has been talked about in Plat Chat, and I thought it was just a good point I'd like to bring to us. It's
Yeah,
just
totally.
that hydration is maybe more, if that it leads to Hog Zarya for some reason, he's probably more comfortable on the Hog than he would be on like the Winston. And so like that would lead to them being pretty strong. So I think the safe bet is to take Houston. But in terms of like the Vancouver Titans, because how you mentioned versus now they're playing the Washington Justice, another team who's had like Vancouver kind of fell apart and rebuilt. Justice also kind of had that happen to them, and obviously on a smaller scale, but they had a mixed roster start of the season. Corey left for Valorant. So Straz just straight up booked it. And then he's content creator for like a week, and then I don't know what happened. But I miss him so much. I really do. And so yeah, then they went full Korean, and they just recently added Decay to the roster. So it's gonna be an interesting game. Like that's the match of the day for me. Like I love Boston. I'm very excited to maybe see them surprise.
Right.
But the Titans Justice game is fairly evenly matched across the board. Like Decay is a superstar. Decay's amazing. But like if you look how I put it recently was like I rate Shredlock over Roar, but made Janu over KSA. But I rate Aim God over Rolf, Karkar over Arc. So it's like
it's a big rock paper scissors circle
all
you
over
got
the
going
place.
on. Yeah. No one can keep track except Ethan. It's just it's the Ethan thought.
I got it up
process.
here.
Yeah,
I'm
it's all
going
up
crazy
here.
with
I
it.
don't need to write it down.
I don't need to think about it. All I know is whoever can help their DPS succeed the most is going to win that game.
Yeah.
Like if Decay can take over a game, so say if Shockwave can at least, if not handle him, but at least keep him in check a bit, I think just the Titans could take it, but it's going to be super close. This is going to be a battle, I think.
Yeah. And I think it's also going to be pretty meta dependent. We've seen Washington do really well with certain metas where they've allowed one of their DPS players to shine and kind of carry the game and work towards just kind of feeding all resources into one player. And Vancouver had a pretty good time on that with the Genji buffs that happened. But I mean, if we're looking at players in scrims, like teams having their main tanks play Roadhog, I mean, we're looking at a pretty brawly meta. We're looking at probably the brawliest meta that we've ever seen.
It's going to be nuts, man.
Yeah.
I don't think people are like Nero was saying, people aren't ready like for how fucking silly this could get.
Yeah. Like,
and,
if you think like Echo Dive is hard to like follow and hard to know, like hard to watch, if Roadhog is main tank, like I don't even know what it's gonna look like. Like
it's gonna be hooks left to right and center. Like the bubbles are gonna be flying. I don't know what the supports are doing because on a Mercy probably, but like I don't know. It's gonna be crazy. Like to see if that actually plans out that way. Like certain teams could benefit from it. Like if teams have players who are experienced on Roadhog, like we talked about hydration.
Yeah.
Honestly, for Toronto, that could be kind of sick. Actually, if like I don't know, Surefire hasn't played, and we've talked about that in the past, and we desperately want him to rediscover his passion for the game. But,
totally, yeah.
You know that man had he's had a couple famous moments on Roadhog. Like he's in season 1 where he I think he was he was on the Gladiators, but no, he hooked someone Pharaoh of the Sky, and he's just like yoinks, mine's now, and then so it could do well for certain teams like Toronto. But like you said, like if maintains are playing Roadhog, man, like. How the fuck is that going to turn out? Yeah,
there's going to be a lot more ownership on players being very accountable and hitting their shots, you know? It's going to be very, very different from a lot of the comps that we've seen before. Like the only thing I could guess could be similar to it would be Dive, but it's not going to be Dive because if we're running Roadhog seriously, it's going to be something completely different. It's going to be like a weird pick, super fast comp that's going to just be focusing on getting like 2 hooks and then you win the team fight.
What do you think about, because I've heard rumors about Zarya Hog, but I've also heard like Winston Zarya has still been seeing a fair amount of play because that's very viable. Surprisingly, it has to be played well, but against the Roadhog, it can work surprisingly well if he was bubbled the Winston at the right, just the right time.
Yeah, and Zarya is just like such a great counter to Hog as well. But I mean, we'll see. Like, I personally, I love the Winston Zarya comp. I think it can do a lot. I think it gives a lot more responsibility in terms of like the DPS amount for Zarya and for Winston. It's just like a really fun comp to play, and I think it's a really cool comp to watch. Will we see it? Yeah, I don't know. If Hog is as good as everyone's talking about, then I think Hog is just going to be played throughout the entire weekend for sure.
I've seen Super play him a lot on like stream, so there's that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him start again, like get like a proper start.
We've talked about this before. I doubt he would ever leave the Shock, or I doubt the Shock would let him go for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, say if he's never going to play really, if Smurf somehow gets close enough, Smurf I don't think will ever be as good on Reinhardt. But if Steve Smurf gets close enough, that they can see not running Super anymore. Honestly, the Gladiators should open their banks. Like, just you can sell OG to another team and bring Super in, because Winston, I think Super's fine on Winston, and he's the grinder. He'll grind up to an appropriate level. Maybe not as good as OG, but like Super and Space had such a chemistry in the World Cup, and so I think Gladiators with Super on main tank actually would be super scary.
Yeah,
that was pun intended. Accidental, but I kind of found it along the way.
Accidental, but it was a happy mistake.
It's a happy little accident.
I mean, so in the end, for the Washington Vancouver game, who do you have over who?
I did take Vancouver but I said 3-2.
Yeah,
and I said I knew it was going to be close. Like, I never against the Justice are one of those teams that are surprisingly hard to predict against, because sometimes they'll just level up and do very well, but they only did that really when they were able to nanoblade Tuba like every time. That's all they were able to do, and I've still not. Roar's best hero was Winston, sure, but I think like Shredlock is doing pretty fine on Winston actually, and if he can get the proper support he needs, they could, like, Shredlock can take on Roar. That's not really where my concern is. It's more how much fun they let Decay have. Essentially, if Decay's having a ball, this could be over quickly. But if Shockwave and Dalton can get in there and shut him down, and like at least take out enough of the opposite team, so even if Decay gets 3, you still win the fight.
Yeah,
like,
having follow-up is so big. It's so big in this game, and
like, I trust Dalton more than I look. Stitch is the most adorable person I've ever seen, but I'm not sure if they say, if you said, if it goes Ash Tracer, Dalton's been kind of pounding on Tracer whenever he gets the player. Like, he actually is a very good Tracer, and like, it would be a very cool matchup to see.
Yeah,
I've just seen more positive results out of Dalton's Tracer than I have Stitch's in recent memory.
That makes sense. Yeah, but I mean, if Vancouver does play the Tracer Ash, that also puts Shockwave on probably the Tracer, correct?
I would probably see Shockwave on the Ash. I'm being quite honest.
Yeah.
Because like, I think he's shown, like, especially against the Rain, like, he was just dumbstring.
Oh yes, that's right.
And like, Dalton's really good too, but that was when they were like Shockwave, Willow, Dalton, Ash.
Yeah,
and like that they could do that. Like, it's very interesting. The beauty of this meta for them, if there's not really much reliance on projectile, it works out so well for the Titans. It works out better for them, I think, than it does for the Justice. Yeah. But again, we keep coming back to this. But the Decay factor.
You can't count it out. You can't count it out.
You can't. Like, say though, if it's like, here's the thing also with the Justice, like, do you have Decay on the Ash or the Tracer? Because Decay's probably your best Ash, but he's also your best Tracer. So like, you'd have to have Stitch pick up one of those two roles, I would assume, because it's probably not going to be Tuba, even though he can play it. But I just see more of Stitch.
He doesn't seem like their guy. It seems like Stitch would be their guy for sure.
Yeah. So like, there's just so many questions. Like, the lack of a concrete meta right now is driving everyone crazy. You don't know who the fuck's going on. You don't know who's going to play what. You're just kind of grasping at straws. You think this could work. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. If I'm right, though.
If you're right, you win the playoffs. Like,
we've talked about being signed. I think we get signed if we're right.
Exactly. I think so too.
Like, the Hunters could use a couple pasty fellows like ourselves. Huh?
Of course they could. Yeah. Right? They don't need a main tank though. But that's the thing. I want to talk about the third game coming up. The London Spitfire versus Hunters, and I mean it's going to be a good. We already know what's going to happen. It's going to be pure shenanigans. But now that we're in a meta that's probably going to be more brawly, Chengdu Hunters don't look bad right now. No, like standings, yes, they look kind of bad, but like going into playoffs,
yes, of course. Yes.
Going into playoffs and going up against Spitfire, who are having a really, really hard time in the APAC region, like that's a great start for your weekend.
And like damn well, even if the meta involves Roadhogs, say if the meta somehow involves Roadhog, Sombra, Brigitte, Ana, damn well they're playing ball.
Yeah.
Like, they are going to play Wrecking Ball. No matter how much CC you put into this game, a man will play Wrecking Ball into it and somehow find success.
It's in his contract.
I don't know how he's going to do it. Yeah, it's in his contract.
It's in his contract. He's got to play ball. But like this meta will like you were saying, with Mercy and Ana probably being the healing duo for this new meta that we're going to be going into. Maybe Lucio, like it really depends, but Ana I think for sure. That is great for ball. Like that's a huge healing source for ball, and it like synergizes so well with that kind of setup. Ana also really does well with Hog as well, which is the whole reason why Ana is being considered such like a high tier going into playoffs.
She's such a good counter and supporter of him too. Like she can shut him down but also keep him alive.
Yeah.
So well.
Yeah. So I mean Chengdu Hunters, I mean, this might be like a small little buff for them. To be honest, they've been playing brawl comps all season long, and everyone's now coming to play on their turf. So
and we've seen what happens when teams try and play on their turf. They just kind of roll over them.
They just kind of go, "What's happening?" and then they lose the game.
They're like, "I don't like this. I like rules. I like structure. I like sanity." And Chengdu just rolls in, concrete, and fucking rolls over everybody.
Yeah. It's just they like. Watching Chengdu Hunter games are the most exciting, but also the most frustrating games to watch because I have no idea why they're winning. I have zero clue, and I don't even think they know why they're winning sometimes.
I think they've just decided not to ask.
Yeah,
they're just like, yeah, we're winning. How do we do that, guys? Like in VODs? No. They're putting the blindfolds on when they're trying to watch VODs. Like, we can't recreate what we did before. We just have to go forward. There's no looking back.
Yeah,
it's like our good friend Adam would say, just be brave. Only brave.
Yes.
No fun, just brave. But they're the fun brave team.
Yeah, so that's gonna be sick. I'm super excited for that game. Spitfire, this is looking like a pretty rough season for them. I mean, if they beat Hunters, I won't be super surprised, but anything past this is gonna be really difficult for them, just because of how difficult the playoffs are going to be for them down the road for sure.
Yeah, this first game is like the APAC region is stacked. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And so even if the Hunters like you said, the Spitfire get through, every game forward from that, they are a massive underdog.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, no one's going to take them in prediction. Like it would be very unwise to take them. Some crazy people have. I've seen, I think Brand's bracket had Chengdu going pretty far, and he's the patron saint of my heart, Brand.
Yeah.
And so like, I think it's possible, but like, you'd have to be a little crazy to vote for Chengdu.
Yeah.
After this game, like this game, perfectly sane, go against whatever Chengdu does, that they're probably going to win. Like Leave and Jinmu are really good, but I don't fucking know, man. APAC's crazy. It's gonna be whoever. It's like who they're playing to see who loses to Shanghai.
Unfortunately, that's really how it feels, to be honest. Like every power ranking that I've seen, everyone that's talking about the playoffs coming up are saying that Shanghai is the team to beat, and it's like Shanghai and then everyone else. So I mean, it's hard for a team like London, who is in such a small pool of teams, but also a bunch of teams that are just a letter grade better than them this season. So it's been a hard season for these boys. Really, really hard season.
I think the team had to know that though going into this season. Like they knew what they were doing. They picked up some guys who weren't even in like tier 3. Like they were. I'm not saying that's not an insult either. It just means they haven't been in like competitive environments maybe for as long. That there's still levels there, but they haven't been at this level, competing at this level as part of a team for me. It's on a bunch of rookies. The most notable, the only person who's still on the team from last year, I believe, was Krillin,
Yeah.
and he didn't play Oliver Bodosian very much. And so the team, they knew they had to know going in this. They had a couple players who could be great, like Glister, Bernard, but it was going to be a rebuild year. This was all right, let's get some pieces in place and move forward from there for 2021 type of year, I thought. Honestly, if they wanted to do really well, they probably should have just picked up. I think they would have had maybe even a better season if they had picked up British Hurricane, just the entire roster. Like they just picked up that team.
Yeah.
Honestly,
there
you go.
It's a better team for sure. Is that
There's
where
a lot of potential, to be clear, though, for
Yeah.
the Spitfire.
It's true. Like we haven't seen the best of the London Spitfire, but also you have to look at a season gone by and just look at the results. And you know, all of these players on the Spitfire are very, very good players, but maybe just this combination is not what they're looking for, or this is just not a winning combination that they have. So it'll just be, we'll just have to see after this first game against the Hunters, because it'll be a very, very big test for them.
Oh yeah, they could surprise us. Like, to be clear, like they could come out like they have, like we've talked about, some great pieces. Like you have Glister, you have Bernard, J Mac's been looking better. You have Sanguinar, especially on like if Sanguinar can play the Lucio, he's a very strong Lucio. He's another kind of one of those wacky ones, kind of like our Lord and Savior FD God.
Yeah, the man,
or
the myth.
the man, the myth, or the Sweet Prince himself, DJ Gon, or the King of the Brits, Funny Astro. But there's a new breed of Lucio has just essentially been taking over the league. It's just the batshit crazy guys.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting. But other than the LA Valiant, we kind of been praising how great they've been looking, and making it into top 10 from the position that they were in at the middle of this season is really, really impressive. Mm-hmm. But are there any other teams that you're kind of thinking about will make like really big splash in this new playoff season?
Honestly,
I've got a few. I've got a few that I've been thinking about.
You go first, actually. Because I have a couple teams, but I've praised the Valiant for a good spell, so I can use a little bit of a think. Patrick, who are the teams you see?
Well,
like if you want to say in either region, maybe, or whatever you have in mind, that you think could do something impressive.
Yeah. I mean, other than Toronto coming in first, we both know that's going to happen. That's all. It's really who I think is the second best team.
Of course.
And I don't think that they're underrated, but I definitely see them not being talked about as much right now. Mm-hmm. And that's Paris Eternal. Like they are a team that has won a playoff or won a tournament before. They have really, really great pieces, and they're a team that's really come together over the last couple of months. Their whole team, I really can't find a fault in any of their team compositions and what they've been deciding to run, and even the players that are running them have just been getting better and better. And they're placed in fourth in the overall rankings, which, you know, makes them a really top tier team. But every time I hear people talk about Paris, there's always something that people kind of retract about Paris. They don't feel that Ben Best will be able to handle the pressure going to the playoffs, or they're worried about the DPS lineup going into this new meta. But Paris has been looking and proving people wrong again and again and again, and I'm really excited to see what they're able to do this coming playoff season.
They are a strong team. That's undeniable. You have, like, their DPS is very good. Sparkle's best heroes, of course. Genji's a little lower now, but like you still have HC for like any hit scan. You have Soon, who's like can do HC things. Like Nico has actually looked a lot better this year as well. Like, yeah, their DPS is very good, and Bembas, especially on the Reinhardt, he's a god.
Totally.
Like you've talked about FD gods so much, we love him. And so, well, you love him as I know maybe even more than I do, and I love him a lot. But
he's just good. He's just so good.
He's a great guy, and they're a very strong team, and like people shouldn't be discounting them. I think you're right. Like, I think Paris Eternal could make a deep dive. They could make a run for it.
Yeah, they have the exact same amount of wins as the Guangzhou Charge, and the Guangzhou Charge are second in the league in the APAC region for
Yes.
wins. So it's like, if you put it at there, if you like organize it that way in your head, like that's a good team.
No, they are. Like
Yeah.
Paris, I think, to do some really great things. Could cause an upset or two, to be honest. I think still Philly and Shock, obviously, I think are the strongest teams.
Totally.
Like Philly, like has so much depth at that roster that it's unbelievable. Same with the Shock. But what do you say? Because you brought up the Charge. Nero is back with the Charge,
Yeah.
and so like, and Nero is a very good player, and like they did very well without him, to be honest. But I think he's more versatile than Eileen. Eileen can play really strong at certain heroes for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not discounting him as a player. I think he's amazing. But I really respect Nero as a player, and so I'm curious to see if they run Nero and Eileen together would be insane if the meta lends to that. But happy with Nero, happy with Eileen. Like the Charge could make a deep run in Asia too. If I think they're appropriately ranked as the number 2. I think they've shown in certain metas like they do struggle a bit when it comes to like the dive a bit.
Yeah.
But that's if they clean that up. Depends even if the meta goes that way. But I think they could make a really good run at it. Like the Charge is one of the teams I am keeping an eye on because I just like them.
Yeah.
I think they're a fun team. They're not my favorite team in Asia. I will admit. We've talked about this. We both love the Hunters.
Yeah.
And the Spark as well. They've also just signed their new Rainer, the
Oh.
anime girl from a very something Railgun. I'm blowing a blank on the full name.
Oh,
It's a specific scientific Railgun anime. They signed
Right.
the girl with the shooty fingers.
Yes. I remember because that was a whole controversy about when they were coming into the league because they wanted to base their whole branding around that anime.
They did the original name was going to be the Hangzhou Railgun, And
Which
then
is
Lee
kind of
just, like,
sick.
the leads are like, all right, calm down, weebs.
Yeah.
We need to just chill here. We're a professional esports league.
All right,
can't just
Sims.
Yeah, all right, simps.
Yeah.
Bat down. All right, we'll call the one guy just looking around, one guy just lighting a lighter. Spark. That's it. That'll do.
That'll get them.
But
man.
yeah, I think that's the Charger team. For me, I want to talk about the Gladiators.
Okay.
Because
okay.
honestly, they did beat the Valiant recently, but that's Battle for LA. Gladiators seem to just have a handle on that right now. But honestly, Birdbrain always does really well in these type of situations. The man thrives under pressure, and he's been playing super well lately. Like Birdbrain's been absolutely just wrecking people. And
Yeah.
so him, and same with Kevster. Kevster is playing so well. Big Goose and Shaz have had a rough year, but they seem to be better if they're on the comfort pits. I think they'll be fine. But again, I think Gladiators could surprise. Like there is a very real chance Gladiators do some cool shit.
Yeah, it would be interesting, and it would be like a really cool storyline just to see the Gladiators do well in the playoffs. And I mean, you mentioned Big Goose and Shaz, and like, I don't think we've talked enough about how kind of crazy the support meta has been. Because like, there was a time where we were running like Brig Zen, like with no healing, like zero healing, no peel for the backline. Like it was crazy. And it's been difficult, and like you see like veteran players like Big Goose and Shaz kind of have difficulty in these very paper thin metas where supports have to fend for themselves pretty much. It's very different from GOATs and from like a lot of other comps that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a kind of a wonky one. Like the times they've had to play. Brig Bap has been around as well.
Yeah.
And so
and having his immortality field be the only defensive tool that the team has, like that's so much pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, and I don't think Big Goose and Shaz are bad at all. People talking about them, they need to be replaced. Blah, blah, blah. No, and maybe some options for certain heroes, but like if you get Big Goose on the Lucio, Shaz on, I want to say whatever prefer him on the Zen or the Ana. Probably Zen, but
yeah.
Shaz is very good. But I think if they can just take a step back, look at the play, identify some of their issues on certain heroes, I think they'll be fine. But like I said, their DPS has been super strong as of late. If Winston gets to be played at all, they have OG, that's his best hero, and he's so good. Space is also shown to be very strong Zarya, and I think I don't know, man. I just think that they could do some cool things.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to watch them because they're a fun team to watch all the time. And I hope I'm not even from LA, to be honest. I don't know why I hype up the LA team so much, but they just have such lovable and likable personalities.
Yeah.
Like the Valiant are like the little brother, but they're just like doing better right now. Like they're just killing it. And the older brother Gladiators are like, we still got some gas here, boys. Let's fucking go. And so it's just, I'm excited to see where things go. Like I love NA, I love APAC, and there's so much good Overwatch going to be played in these playoffs. I'm really excited to see what the meta develops into, and like to see if some of our hot takes. I don't know. It's something like Paris is not. Yeah, that's like a medium take.
Yeah, it's a lukewarm take. I like they're fourth overall. I just feel like they're not getting a lot of press just because they're being compared to the Shock in Philadelphia. They're kind of like in that bracket, and they're seen as third worst. So like no one's kind of really thinking about Paris too much.
Who else is in the top 5 in NA then? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's Philadelphia, Shock, Paris, Florida.
That's it. Florida could also surprise, but like they've shown to struggle if the game goes too long.
Yeah, and that's mostly just on map differential. Like Paris and Florida are pretty similar teams. They just kind of have a big discrepancy on map differential. So Florida could be a really, really big team going into it, but we'll have to see. Do you have any final thoughts on playoffs? I mean, we talked a lot about a lot of different things, but do you have any final thoughts?
Well, Boston's going to win. You've said Toronto's going to win, but I think Boston's going to come out surprised.
Of course.
If they win, everyone owes me $5. I'm just going to say that. Everyone owes me $5.
If Boston wins on Thursday, I'll give you $5.
Hey, I never owe money to somebody because it's not doing that. But look, memes aside, I think we're in for a hell of an off season. Yes, we are, but we're in for a hell of a postseason. It's going to be very exciting to see how things develop, and I'd love to see once it gets to the grand finals on October 10th, who's left standing. Because there's so many unanswered questions. Like so many teams have like, oh, they're gonna be the best team. Like going, they're gonna win.
Yeah,
and then they just get knocked out real fast. It's happened. It's happened to like back in season 1. New York was the team. New York was going to win the whole grand finals, and they got knocked out real fast. And so it's gonna be very interesting to see. Is there? I want to see an upset. Like I think the Shock could take it all. Shanghai could take it all. I would love to see a goddamn upset. I want to see something crazy. Like even if that something crazy is as mildly crazy, like very mildly crazy, as Philly winning. Because Philly fans have been through the ringer.
Yeah,
they've gotten so close so many times, and no, into that this year was probably one of their best shots at it.
Yeah, and they have the score line to prove it. They're a team that is definitely earns a spot in the top 3 in the Overwatch League period for sure. And I mean, yeah. It's going to be a very, very exciting time to watch, but that also brings us to the end of our podcast.
Oh.
Yeah.
we hope you've enjoyed yourselves on this excellent evening.
This most excellent spooky evening. But we will see you all next podcast.